In London the other day, Richard Dawkins and I and Anthony Grayling, moral philosopher.
Wow, that's the 18.
Not bad. Debated against three religious types, Roger Scruton, Rabbi Neuberger, and someone else, can't remember now.
Yeah.
A person who'd actually written a book with the title Digging Up Jesus, or Digging for Jesus. Very funny. We massacred them, by the way, but that's not the point. We left them for dead.
If you see something apparently involving suspension of the laws of nature, shall we say, the sun standing still so Joshua can win his battle, all right? Or the raising of Jairus' daughter, or even my favorite miracle, the turning of the water into wine at Cana. A tribute to the Hellenistic influence that still persisted in Palestine at that time. You still have to ask yourself the question, which is more probable, that the laws of physics or nature have been suspended, by the way, in my favor, or that I'm under a misapprehension? Everyone has to ask themselves that question. That's if they saw it themselves. If they take it as a report issued through and filtered through dozens of other non-eyewitnesses and corrupt texts down the years, then I would think anyone who says that they think of the resurrection as a historic fact is advertising a willingness to believe in absolutely anything.
Now, excuse me, sir. You can either ask me on and ask my opinion, or you may not. But I don't have to be here if you're going to take that attitude.
Well, you could leave.
You spent the first half by saying I had no right to the opinion you'd asked me on to express. Now you're tiring me out. Members of his government, named members of his government, have been caught sponsoring death squads. He's lied. He's lied to the European Union about his nuclear program.
But you know that a lot
he says he believes the Messiah is about to come back. Who's looking for a war here?
So does George Bush, by the way.
President Bush has said...
That's not facetious.
That's not facetious. Your audience, which will clap apparently anything, is frivolous.
I'm just saying...
What does Christianity say? Those laws can be suspended. And in your favor, too, if you make the right prayers and propitiations and sacrifices. There can be, a virgin can conceive, a dead body can walk again, your leprosy can be cured, the blind can see. Nonsense. It's not moral to lie to children. It's not moral to lie to ignorant, uneducated people and to tell them that if they will only believe nonsense, they can be saved. It's immoral.
And I think what I mainly live for is contemplating the misfortunes of other people.
Well, that leads me to a very...
That and vindication, being proved repeatedly and over again right when other people were wrong. That does a lot for me. And the progress you're talking about with this guy from Lynchburg, this guy from Lynchburg defines progress as teaching junk science to our children, and leaving us the mockery of the world by pretending that we did not evolve. It is certainly true that I consider that the question of liberty of the mind is involved in the repudiation of theism. Yes, I think that we would be living in a celestial dictatorship if we accepted the authority scripturally revealed of a divine will. And I think this not because, under the inconvenient scrutiny of this eye, I'm not free to rape and pillage and lie as I might wish, because there are other things, I assure you, as I'm sure you will say for yourselves, those of you with any self-respect, that stop me from doing that. But because, and I don't mind admitting this is true, once you grant that there's been a revelation of God to some humans, sometimes, in some places, to be interpreted by a priesthood, then the next thing you will find is that you are being told what to do, what to eat, what you can read, who you can go to bed with, by someone who is no better a mammal or primate than yourself, but who claims to be doing this who claims the right to run your life and your sex life and your mind and your reading matter in the name of God. And I won't have it, okay? And the next thing they'll tell you, the next thing they'll ask you for, the next thing, just a little thing, is, well, go and live on this piece of someone else's territory. God wants you to settle it. And the next thing will be, you're called to holy war now because we can't coexist with the infidel. The next thing will be that. Let it in once, and you let it in, all of it. Of all the questions of mine that Dinesh didn't even attempt to answer this evening, because we were talking not about Christianity, but about religion, was, is this only true for one sect, or is it true for all of them? If it's only true for one, on what grounds is that the case? If it's true for all of them, where would that leave us as a species? Think on these things, ladies and gentlemen.
Not until gentle Jesus, meek and mild, are you told, if you don't make the right propitiations, you can depart into everlasting fire. That one of the most wicked ideas ever preached, and one that's ruined the lives and the peace of mind of many, many children, preached to them by vicious, child-hating old men and women in the name of this ghastly cult which we're met here to discuss tonight. I don't need 2 minutes to finish with this religion, but thanks.
The second thing I live for is, if not exactly passing on my genes, taking part in activities that might allow those genes to be passed on. And not scorning the three delightful children who are everything to me and who are my only chance of even a glimpse of a second life, let alone an immortal one. And I'll tell you something, if I was told to sacrifice them to prove my devotion to God, if I was told to do what all monotheists are told to do, and admire the man who said, yes, I'll gut my kid to show my love of God, I'd say, no, fuck you. For condemning my friend Stephen Fry for his nature, for saying you couldn't be a member of our church, you're born in sin. He's not being condemned for what he does, he's being condemned for what he is. You're a child made in the image of God. Oh no, you're not. You're a faggot. And you can't join our church and you can't go to heaven. This is disgraceful, it's inhuman, it's obscene, and it comes from a clutch of hysterical, sinister virgins who've already betrayed their charge in the children of their own church. For shame, for shame. I can see your face, I can see your hair, and I can see you sitting in an audience with young gentlemen. Don't you tell me you can do any of that in Iran.
I can, though.
No, you can't.
Yes, I can.
No, you cannot.
I can, in Iran.
That there's a big relationship between this marvelous time of year and living in a one-party state. Nothing makes me think more than at this time of year of our oldest, humanity's oldest enemy, the authoritarian dictatorship, where you can't go anywhere without listening to the same music, where you can't go anywhere without hearing the name of the great leader and his son, the dear leader, where all broadcasts, all songs, all jokes, all references are, just for that magic few weeks, just exactly like living in fucking North Korea. You insult your sisters in Tehran who are being beaten, and raped every day when you say that they have their rights in the Islamic Republic. It's an insult to the women of Iran.
I do not.
Who want to oppress them in the name of God.
Do you mean, sir, that we do not have an... It's me again, the questioner.
Yes, sir.
Do you mean, then...
You suddenly seemed a little, what shall I say?
Omniscient?
It just came from somewhere else. It gave me a nasty turn. It says, and do you think that unto such as you, a maggot-minded, starved, fanatic crew, God gave a secret and denied it me? Well, well, what matters it? Believe that too. To this magnificent astronomer and scientist and physician and humanist of Persia, who opposed the cruel, sadistic, verminous, ignorant mullahs of his day, I borrow the question, what is your authority for saying that you know something that I don't? The difference between the theist and the deist is as follows. The deist says, may not make sense without some kind of designer. The theist says, when I tell you what to do, Christopher, I have God on my side. The deist says, he can tell what God wants of me, what length I should shave off the end of my penis, if I'm a boy or have a male child, or off the clitoris if it's a female child. He knows to the exactitude what the proportions of that should be, what the diet should be, what the dietary laws ought to be, who I should sleep with, and in what position. And various other things. And since God doesn't ever directly appear and say, do it this way, It's done for him, this is really convenient, by human representatives who claim to act in his name. So that's why I think your standard of proof should be a great deal higher, because if the reason this point is important to you is because it would mean real power in the only world that actually exists, which is the material world, of you over me. And you wonder why I'm not keen.
Ah, well, what an incredibly stupid question. First, I've said repeatedly that this stuff cannot be taken away from people. It is their favorite toy, and it will remain so, as Freud said in The Future of an Illusion, it will remain that way as long as we're afraid of death and have no problem, which is, I think, likely to be quite a long time. Second, I hope I've made it clear that I'm perfectly happy for people to have these toys and to play with them at home and hug them to themselves and so on, and share them with other people who come around and play with the toys. So that's absolutely fine. They are not to make me play with these toys. Okay? I will not play with the toys. Don't bring the toys to my house. Don't say my children must play with these toys. Don't say my toys might be a condom. Here we go again. Are not allowed by their toys. I'm not going to have any of that. Enough with clerical and religious bullying and intimidation. Is that finally clear? Have I got that across? Thank you. In order to believe the Christian message, you have to believe this. For those 100,000 years, people were born, died, usually, many of them, in childbirth, either the mother or the child. At life expectancy, perhaps 20 years, 25. Died of microorganisms they didn't know existed. Genesis doesn't mention them because the people who write Genesis don't know there are microorganisms. Earthquakes would have been terrifying. Tsunamis, volcanoes, mysterious events. War and famine superimposed on this. You can all fill out this picture for yourselves, I'm sure. That was our life. For tens of thousands of years, on and on it went. Maybe a gradual upward curve of a sort. We seem to have made some progress, very painfully, and with infinite suffering and labor, and with our solidarity still intact. Now here's what you have to believe. You have to believe that heaven watched that for 98,000 years. And after 98,000 years decided 2,000 years, it may be time to intervene. And the best way of doing that would be to have a filthy human sacrifice in a very remote part of Palestine. And the news of this has still not penetrated to the rest of the world, and I don't think will be believed when it does, and isn't believed by me and can't be believed by a thinking person. Thank you.